I'm here together with Ludovic Dubost from XWiki at the end of the Enterprise CEO Summit. Today we had a session you joined in as part of the discussion about aligning social with process, because there are a lot of issues about social not being business oriented and too far away from processes. So what was your takeaway?
Yeah, I think it was a very interesting session, and there was some very interesting discussions. What I found is that lots of the discussions were a bit about how you can bring social into process-oriented tools, into BPM software, or how you can bring BPM software information inside the social. Well, our thing is that we think that there's another part in social that is maybe not as well known, which is the one where you make people participate into how to organize the company and how to organize the content, and clearly, and this is what we do what we do with wikis, and what we do is our next generation wiki, where we're allowing users to define the structure of information, and then collaborate around this information. And what you see is that in the end you're doing process. You're doing a lightweight process, which is not what you would do in a BPM software, which is a very structured process that you cannot really change. What you're doing is you're doing process-oriented work inside a social environment where people can decide how it will work and how it will be used. And basically that's where you can unleash the knowledge of the workers themselves into something that will be much more business-oriented than what you would get in an enterprise social network that's very oriented toward discussions. And that's what we like at XWiki, and I found the session very interesting. And what I find interesting is that companies start to, wanting that social becomes more business oriented, and that's something that at XWiki we've been very concerned with, is how can we make the employees bring value and do actually social work that's very much about actual work, and not just about let's discuss what the company could become, or let's discuss, let's ask, I don't know this person, let me ask if somebody would know something about this subject. That's very useful, but for example in more mid-sized companies, people know each other a bit more than they would in a group of 10,000 people. So if you're in a 100 people company, you tend to know a bit more who's doing what, and so finding a competency is not that important than actually being more efficient at work. And there is a lot of knowledge of people that is lost, and you need to work with that.
But does this apply to all kinds of companies? Because my thoughts are that this applies perfectly to knowledge-driven companies, but maybe a little bit less to process-driven companies.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, maybe in a company that has had the ability to structure most of this work in very efficient processes, it's going to be slightly less important. But at the same time, I think even in these companies, you have a lot of processes that are completely informal. That people, they know their work, they know what they have to do, but they have done it. It has not been put in an ERP. It has not been put in a BPM. It's not because a lot of the work has been put in this system because the company was able to do it that everything has been put there. And so it's still interesting to bring the ability for workers to kind of create additional structures of data and create additional processes that are more lightweight, and that they can use the software the software to work with. Now, it's true that it's more valuable for knowledge workers. When you're working with knowledge, when a company that is working mostly with knowledge, and most companies today start to be companies like that, the new ones that are created, and most company needs to transform themselves more and more towards this direction. It's very important. It's hugely important, because the competencies of your employees will be about what they can get from the other employees, how the knowledge is going to be transferred from one employee to another. But I think it can still be interesting in larger organization. They might have more tools already in place and more BPM, more process, more knowledge system in place, but they don't have that many systems which actually allow people to act on them. What we hear, for example, is that they very often departments feel very constrained into the tools they have because they don't have a lot of power on how to change them, on how to adapt them to their group, and that creates a lot of frustration in these groups. The type of software we're doing at XWiki gives the possibility to actually adapt more at the department level and still have a platform that would run at the global level. So you have the possibility to make changes department by department. It's possible.
So we're at the end of the Enterprise Show Summit 2014. Do we met your expectations?
Yeah, I mean it is great to have a conference that talks about Enterprise 2.0. I would like to see the conference talk more about mid-sized company also. I have the feeling sometimes that a lot of the talks are oriented and some discussions are oriented towards problems of very large companies. And I think that often the proposals that are made are not really applicable in smaller or mid-sized companies, and it would be interesting to have more practical solutions and less theoretical solutions. But the use case return, I mean the presentation about use cases from all the companies are really interesting. You can see there is a huge challenge in adoption, and that you need to convince everyday people how they will use it. That change management is really important, and that it's something we also see in our projects, and it's something that's very general. So this exchanges of practice between customers about how to handle the change management aspect of these type of tools is very interesting.
Great. Thank you for the interview.
Welcome. Thank you, Bjorn.